Hi, everyone. Stephanie with the patient story again. This is video number 3, segment 3 of Mary's story series. And Mary, you just got through a whole lot again, talking about, finding the right doctor and then having those conversations and figuring out what treatment would be right. And thankfully, you found something to really address the vertigo. And you're still on the hydroxyurea, which is an oral daily pill. So, but this segment is really about all of the, it's about life, the real stuff that happens, what we deal with mentally, spiritually, emotionally, all of that. So let's start with, we've talked a lot already about patient advocacy. Is there any last thing, just because it is such an important point that I really love just making sure to highlight it in this segment as well, the most important thing you want people to take away?
Listen to your gut. Listen to yourself. You know your body better than anybody. Be persistent if you're not listened to. Find an NPN specialist.
Yeah, that's huge. And again, we talked about this before. If you're in a rural area or you don't have access to a specialist at a center, you can often ask them to work with a specialist, which a lot of people do. I
know people who travel 5 hours to a specialist.
Yeah.
Because it's that important.
Absolutely. So yeah, just having a line of access to one of them, I think, is incredibly important. And if you're lucky enough to be within driving, flying, whatever distance, that's wonderful. I do want to ask you, Mary, about, your doctor had said, look, it's great. Your platelet count, looks wonderful. You go in quarterly now, and the longer it goes, maybe the more comfortable it gets, but that it could change, right? It could change at any moment, was what he said. So have you ever felt, gosh, how do I deal with this uncertainty? Was it something you had to work through? And if so, what helped you?
Well, first of all, being a nurse and also seeing my father have a very similar cancer at an early age. We both were diagnosed with blood cancers at age 55, and he died at age 60. I'm pretty pragmatic. And I sat my children down early on, my adult sons, and they didn't want to talk about it. They didn't want to talk about the fact that I was going to die. I presented them with my will and my DNR, the kinds of things I wanted them to understand about my end of life. And they were having a really hard time with it. And I had to say to them, and it really helped me to do this, I had to put it in perspective. It's a great life. It might not be as long as I had hoped it would be, but I'm going to ensure that it continues to be a great life, even if it's a shortened life. And that thing really helped me a lot. Instead of framing it as, why me? Why did this happen? Well, frame it as, this did happen. I have my days are numbered to some degree, and use your time well, lady. That's kind of the story, the narrative I have told myself. And that's easier said than done. So I had to do some practical things. Early on after my diagnosis, my husband left me. He decided that he didn't want to stick around for the end. And he thought, when it was turned out that it was myelofibrosis, he was like, you're dead. You're going to be out of here. And I don't want to be around for that. We had only been married 6 years. It was a second marriage, but I have to tell you, it was a great marriage. It was bliss. So it came out of the blue. It wasn't at all something I saw coming. And he's not a jerk. He panicked and he left. And we are still friends, if you can believe that, because anyway, that's another story. But in the aftermath of that grief was so heavy. That grief was harder than the grief of getting cancer. That grief was so heavy that I started some therapy. And that therapy helped me process my diagnosis and sort of my prognosis, this notion that I'm not going to live forever. And one of the things I did that year was I started, and it sounds so trite, I started a gratitude journal. I would get up every morning after I walked my dog, and I would have a cup of coffee, and I would sit and write down what I anticipate were going to be great things about today and what I was grateful for that happened in the 24 hours prior. And that flipping of the switch from, oh man, this is happening to me, wah, to, hey, how do I make this a great day? What were the great things yesterday? And how do I look forward to making this day great? Flips something in the brain. It really does. And I made a conscious choice to live well. Um, and that's easy to say because I feel pretty good right now, right? But and I don't know if I'm still going to keep this up, but I'm practicing, right? I'm practicing kind of a wellness and a wholeness and taking up space and gratitude because it's who I want to be. When I am dead, I want my kids to be able to say, she was still pretty cool in spite of all of that. You know, I don't want my life to be marked by its end. And I also don't want to give in to the ending by kind of being a jerk through the last 10 years of my life. When I was at Stanford, they told me I'd be dead by age 72. I don't love knowing that, but I'm 59. You know, I have one full decade left, my 60s, and I intend to live it. I intend to. That's why I took a new job as CEO of a company in March of this year. I mean, I didn't slow down. I intend to continue to live and grow and contribute.
No, it's really incredible to hear how you've really thrust yourself into, well, I'm gonna, make the most of it. But I want to say this, Mary, and I just had this interview with, he's one of the leading MPN MF specialists. I mean, he's the founder and director of the only or the biggest like MPN research center in the world, right? So Dr. Serge Verstovshek, and he was just saying, whatever you hear in terms of prognosis, the numbers, first of all, they're very old, right? They're from research from a decade or two before. So there's that. And it's constantly evolving and it's hard. And those are really just guidelines for the clinicians to use. But it's really, so I think, and talking to him, we're talking about all these developing treatments and everything. It's just really wonderful to hear. But more than the science and the medicine, what I really heard from you was just, it was very powerful talking about when your husband left, right? This big shift in a relationship, which I think a lot of us deal with, just shifting relationships. You see who stays, you see who goes. And of course, some of those people are really surprising and it's incredibly hurtful and it came out of nowhere. And that's what you went through. I guess, how did you, I don't want to say recover, but it's a lot to get through. What helped you out of it?
Well, the truth is you don't recover. You just choose to forgive. And I will say this for anybody who's going through stuff, because people are jerks. People, I had one friend who'd say, you always try to get out of stuff when we're doing stuff. I said, you always plan things late in the evening. And I have told you that evenings are not my time. If you want me for dinner, 4:30, 5 o'clock, I can't do an 8 o'clock dinner because that's bedtime. But she was like ragging on me. And ultimately that friendship sort of went, she said to me, but you look fine. And I said, just because I carry it well doesn't mean it's not heavy, and that's the astonishing thing is some people just want you to look sick. And if you don't look sick, they just want you to carry on. And so I didn't really lose friends, but I sort of let go of things that didn't feed me ultimately. And my husband who left me and I are close friends. He has deep regret for what he's done and he's trying to get back with me, but I don't know that I could ever could at this stage of the game. But I don't hate him. I feel sorry for him because he gave up something really amazing. I look at it as my energies have to be put into I have to stay whole and healthy and strong mentally and physically because I am a mother and I am a CEO and I am a nurse and I'm a friend and I have roles that I'd like to continue to contribute to. So I have to, number one, take care of my mental and physical health to the extent that I'm able. And attitude is a lot of it. I do not feed myself negativity. I don't, I will not pity myself because this is happening to me. I remember when my father was sick, I said, Pop, do you ever ask why me? And my dad never got really mad, but he said, Mary, why not me? He said, I'll ask why me when it's a 6-year-old with brain cancer that's incurable. That's when you ask why them. Why me? Come on, I've had a good life. I've seen my kids grow up. I've had a successful career. And so he really helped me with some of that. He was quite stoic. But then when he was dying, and I was his caretaker at the end of his life, when he was dying, he died well. And by well, I mean, he didn't whine about dying. He took it all in. He died really purposefully, and he was pleasant to all of us around him. And I think he taught me how to do that well. And so in some ways, I'm grateful for that, that there were lessons there. But and now I'm trying to teach my kids how to be graceful in the face of adversity. My son and his girlfriend bought me a plaque from Frida Kahlo. It says something like, "We can endure much more than we think we can," or something like that. And I said, "What made you think of this?" They said, "Because you're tough. You are so tough." And I said, "I'm not tough at all. I'm not tough. But I want to be whole in the rest of the time I have. I don't want to whine. It's not easy. There are some days. Last night I was sitting watching a Hallmark movie because it was supposed to be smarmy and easy and make me smile. And I was sobbing, tears running down my face last night. I have no idea why. Something hit me hard. And it wasn't happy tears. It was kind of like wah tears. It happens.
You were very deep in feeling, like, it's so interesting. Sometimes I do find that I seek that, right? It's like this emotional connection with yourself that makes me feel very alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also really appreciate, I mean, there was a lot that you said there. I do want to rewind too. You had talked about how your friend who's no longer really in your life, first of all, which I think is a great message, drawing boundaries, right? You don't have to, you can be graceful about it, but figuring out what gives you life, what doesn't, what takes away from you, what's additive. But the comment of, well, you don't look sick. And I think there are just certain cancers where people deal with that a lot, right? Because maybe it's the movies. I mean, I did undergo the chemotherapy that was aggressive, where you lost all of your hair and your eyebrows. And so you were very clearly sick. But if you don't fit that profile for some reason, if it's myelofibrosis or CLL or myeloma or these other ones that are more chronic in nature, I mean, it's tough, right? What's your message to any people who deal with the chronic kind of, cancer, who, deal with painful, hurtful.
The one thing I learned, that chronic anything, when you think about when you're sick with the flu and you're in bed for 2 weeks, or even a cold, at the end of the 2 weeks, you are so sick of sneezing and rubbing your nose, and your nose is raw. Now, picture that it's bone pain, that because your platelets are scarring your bone marrow and overproducing your bone marrow, your bones feel like they're expanding from the inside out, and your bones hurt all the time. Do I feel like I'm going to die? Nah. But on a scale of 10, right now, I'd say my pain's 5 or 6. And at night, it feels like a 7 or 8 because I'm alone with it in bed at night. It's manageable. But over time, sure does weight you down. Sure does make you feel like another day of this. My feet really hurt all the time, the bones in my feet. And I found a podiatrist who's really been helping me. We think it's chemo related. But I love my chemo because it's doing the right things for me. So I'm trying to manage the pain in my feet. And I wear sneakers. I wear clodhopper sneakers. I'm the CEO. I dress nicely to work, but I wear like orthopedic sneakers with dress clothes, and it embarrasses me a little bit. I don't love it, but I have to make adaptations to get through my day. The real thing is you just make these accommodations so that life is easier. I don't wear mascara anymore. I never liked it, but now I don't want to be bothered with sticky eyelashes because I have so many other things that bother me, and not wearing mascara seems like a really dumb thing, right? It has given me quality because I just little things like that. You just choose, and like this notion of boundaries, or having a friend that you say, this is enough. Cancer is really beautiful in its clarity, in a terminal diagnosis is awful and wonderful. I mean, it's awful because there's an end. I mean, we're all going to die, right? There's an end, but it's wonderful because you get to be part of your end. You get to be part of how you lead into your ending. And I'm not dying by any means. I am living, and I intend to live until I die. But knowing that my life is likely going to be shorter than it should have been or would have been, whatever that means, lets me choose better today. That lets me be in it differently today. I'm kinder than I ever was. I see things that I didn't see. I see stars. I smell crispness in the air that I didn't know before. And there's a beauty in every single person I meet that I didn't have before, because I feel like film was lifted off of my eyeballs in the clarity of terminal diagnosis. Do you know that? You know what I'm saying?
I feel it. I really do.
And
And
that
yeah,
it's that Garth Brooks "Live Like You're Dying" song. It sounds so trivial, but man, it's so real
yeah,
to feel and smell and taste things
yeah,
just so fully.
yeah.
Little gifts every day.
Are little gifts every day. And it's like when people talk about, if you don't know if you know the full pain, then you know the full joy. I mean, there's that duality. And yeah, and I appreciate so much what you're saying, Mary. And I want to thank you for spending so much time sharing everything that you've gone through, but more than that, the guidance, just what you've learned and sharing it with other people. And what you had said that meant so much to you, being, seen, feeling heard. I think a lot of that is what we all seek from one another too. And so I thank you for spending the time.
And same, thank you for doing this, for launching this project, for getting the stories out there, because it's the connectedness that keeps us sane through this. It's knowing the person who's done what you're doing now, hearing from the person who just had a biopsy, what it really feels like, or how to prepare or psych yourself up for it. And likewise, talking to the person who is getting ready for a stem cell transplant, knowing that that's in my future, learning from their experience. The stories connect us, and the stories are so important.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, thank you so much for saying that. And I look forward to our next conversation, Mary. And for everyone who wants to tune into Mary's story, our conversation, just head to thepatientstory.com, where you'll find human answers to your cancer questions.